I guess you could say I had a pretty normal childhood, at least on the surface. Mom and Dad both worked office jobs, nothing fancy, but enough to keep us comfortable in our little suburban house. I was born first, and 2 years later, my sister Sophia came along. That's when everything changed, though I didn't realize it at the time. I remember the day Sophia started school. Mom was bustling around the kitchen, humming to herself as she packed Sophia's lunch. "Look, sweetie," she cooed, holding up a heart-shaped sandwich. "And I put a special note in there for you too." Sophia giggled, her pigtails bouncing as she admired her fancy lunch. I glanced down at my own lunchbox, filled with yesterday's leftovers, and felt a twinge in my stomach. "Mom," I said hesitantly, "can I have a heart sandwich too?" She barely looked at me. "Oh, Evelyn, don't be silly. You're too old for that now. Besides, we're out of bread." I wanted to point out that she'd just used bread for Sophia's lunch, but I kept quiet. It wasn't worth the argument. That was just the beginning. As we grew older, the pattern became clearer. Every time Sophia had a school event, Mom was front and center, camera in hand, cheering louder than any other parent. But when it came to my stuff, half the time, she didn't even show up. One day, I was scrolling through Mom's Facebook page when I noticed something weird. It was like a shrine to Sophia, photos of her at dance recitals, holding up spelling bee trophies, posing in new outfits. I had to scroll for ages before I found a picture of myself, and even then, I was half cropped out, blurry in the background. "Mom," I called out, my voice shaking a little. "How come there are so many pictures of Sophia on your page, but hardly any of me?" She glanced over, frowning slightly. "Oh, don't be so sensitive, Evelyn. Sophia's just more photogenic, that's all." I felt like I'd been slapped. More photogenic? Was that code for prettier? For better? Dad must have noticed something was up, because that evening, he surprised me with an ice cream trip. "Just you and me, kiddo," he said, ruffling my hair. "What flavor do you want?" For a while, these little outings with Dad were my lifeline. He'd bring me small gifts, or take me for drives, just the two of us. As the years rolled by, Dad's attempts to even things out became fewer and farther between. I'd catch him sometimes, watching Mom fuss over Sophia with this defeated look in his eyes. It was like he'd given up, you know? After that, things got even worse. Mom's favoritism went into overdrive, and Dad, well, he just checked out. I remember the day Sophia announced she wanted to learn piano. Mom's eyes lit up like it was Christmas. "Oh, darling, that's wonderful," she gushed. "We'll get you the best tutor in town." Next thing I knew, there was a shiny grand piano in our living room, and Sophia was having lessons twice a week. A few days later, I worked up the courage to ask for some new art supplies. My old ones were practically falling apart. "Art supplies?" Mom scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Evelyn, do you have any idea how expensive Sophia's piano lessons are? We can't afford to indulge every little whim." I felt my cheeks burning. "It's not a whim, Mom. I've been into art for years." "Well, maybe you should find a cheaper hobby," she snapped. I retreated to my room, fighting back tears. It wasn't fair. Nothing about this was fair. The differences extended to everything, even our clothes. Sophia's closet looked like a boutique, all designer labels and trendy pieces. Meanwhile, I was stuck with hand-me-downs and whatever I could find on clearance. One day, as I was rifling through a bin of marked-down shirts, Sophia appeared at my side. "Hey, Ev," she said softly. "I got some birthday money from Grandma. Want to split it and get you something nice?" I looked at her, surprised. "You don't have to do that, Soph." She shrugged. "I want to. Besides, that green sweater you've been eyeing would look way better on you than me." That was Sophia for you. Despite everything, she was genuinely kind. It wasn't her fault Mom played favorites, and I couldn't bring myself to resent her for it. In fact, as we got older, Sophia and I grew closer. We'd stay up late, whispering about Mom's weird behavior. I don't get it, Sophia confessed one night. Why does she treat us so differently? I shook my head. I wish I knew, Sophia. I really wish I knew. There were times when Sophia would stand up for me, too. Like when Mom criticized my grades, conveniently forgetting that I was taking advanced classes. Mom, lay off, Sophia snapped. Evelyn's working her butt off. You should be proud. Mom looked shocked, then muttered something about Sophia being too soft-hearted. It was moments like these that kept me going. Knowing that at least my sister saw me, really saw me, made the rest of it a little more bearable. Another bright spot in all this mess was my grandparents, Eleanor and George. Every visit to their cozy little house felt like stepping into a different world, one where I actually mattered. Their walls told a different story than Mom's Facebook page. Photos of Sophia and me hung side by side, our gap-toothed grins immortalized in matching frames. One afternoon, as I helped Grandma in the kitchen, I couldn't help but ask, "How come you have so many pictures of me, Grandma?" "Mom barely has any." Grandma's hand stilled on the dough she was kneading. "Oh, sweetie," she sighed. "Your mother, well, she's always been a bit particular. But don't you ever think that means you're any less special?" Meanwhile, Grandpa George's workshop became my sanctuary. The smell of sawdust and varnish, the quiet whir of his lathe, it all felt more like home than my actual house did. Hours would fly by as he taught me to sand, to measure, to create something beautiful out of raw wood. As high school graduation approached, I dared to hope things might change. Maybe Mom would finally see me, be proud of me. But instead, she and Dad dropped a bombshell that left me reeling. "Girls," Dad said, his voice heavy, "your mother and I, we can't afford to pay for both of you to go to college." The room spun. I felt like I couldn't breathe. What do you mean?" Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's just not in our budget, Evelyn. You'll have to figure something out." I stumbled out of the house, barely aware of where I was going until I found myself on my grandparents' doorstep, sobbing. "Oh, honey," Grandma said, pulling me close. "What happened?" Through hiccuping breaths, I told them everything. When I finished, Grandpa and Grandma exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. "Evelyn," Grandpa said slowly, "how would you feel if we paid for your first 2 years of college?" I blinked, sure I'd heard wrong. You'd do that?" Grandma squeezed my hand. "Of course we would, sweetheart. We believe in you." For the first time in what felt like forever, a spark of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, I could make this work. With my grandparents' help, I managed to enroll in a public college a few hours away from home. Packing up my beat-up Honda Civic, I felt a mix of excitement and terror. This was my chance to start fresh, to be more than just the less favored daughter. As I drove away, watching my childhood home disappear in the rearview mirror, I made a promise to myself: I was going to make this work, no matter what. Those first 2 years flew by in a blur of classes, new friends, and the intoxicating feeling of freedom. But as my grandparents' funding neared its end, reality came crashing back. I picked up every job I could find. Mornings, I'd sling lattes at the campus coffee shop, my hands perpetually smelling of espresso. Afternoons were split between shelving books at the library and tutoring freshmen who looked at calculus like it was written in alien hieroglyphics. "Evelyn, when's the last time you slept?" my roommate, Jen, asked one night as I stumbled in at 2 a.m. I shrugged, cracking open an energy drink. "Sleep's for the weak. I've got a paper due." It wasn't easy. There were nights I'd dinner on whatever I could scrounge from the vending machines, a bag of chips here, a granola bar there. But every time I thought about quitting, I'd remember my mom's dismissive words, and it would light a fire under me. I was halfway through my junior year when I got a call from Sophia. Her voice was tight, hesitant. "Ev, you sitting down?" My stomach dropped. "What's wrong? Is it Grandma and Grandpa?" No, they're fine," she rushed to assure me. It's about college." What she told me next made my blood run cold. Not only had our parents found money for Sophia's education, but they'd sent her to Wellesley, one of the most expensive private colleges in the country. "I'm so sorry, Ev," Sophia sobbed. "I had no idea. I'll drop out, I swear. It's not fair." "Don't you dare," I cut her off, my voice sharper than I intended. "This isn't your fault, Sophia. You deserve a good education." "But so do you," she protested. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. "Yeah, well, looks like I'm getting one the hard way. Promise me you'll stay in school, okay?" After we hung up, I sat on my bed, staring at nothing. All those years of favoritism, and I'd still somehow believed there was a limit. That when it came to something as important as our futures, our parents would treat us equally. Stupid, naive Evelyn. I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually, I got up, washed my face, and headed to my shift at the coffee shop. As I tied on my apron, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, eyes bloodshot, hair a mess, but chin held high. "All right, Evelyn," I muttered to my reflection. "Time to prove them wrong." The morning after Sophia's call, I dragged myself out of bed, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. As I mindlessly scrolled through my phone, my mom's latest Facebook post stopped me cold. "So proud of my talented youngest. Off to the best college because she actually applied herself, unlike some. Proud mom gifted child." My hand shook so bad I nearly dropped my phone. I read it again, and again, each word cutting deeper than the last. The implication was crystal clear: Sophia deserved the best, because she was talented. And me? I was just, what? A disappointment? Before I knew what I was doing, I was dialing Mom's number, my breath coming in short, angry gasps. "Hello?" Her voice was annoyingly chirper. "What the hell, Mom?" I spat out. "Your Facebook post? Really?" There was a pause, then a sigh. "Oh, Evelyn, don't tell me you're jealous of your sister's success." "Jealous?" I nearly screamed. "You lied to me. You said you couldn't afford college for both of us." "Well," she said, her tone dripping with condescension, "talent needs to be nurtured, while mediocrity will cope on its own." The words hit me like a slap. "Mediocrity? Is that what you think of me?" "Now, don't be dramatic," she huffed. "If you'd shown any real promise." I cut her off, years of pent-up hurt and anger pouring out. "Real promise? I busted my ass in school. I'm working 3 jobs to stay in college. How is that not showing promise?" "Oh please," she scoffed. "Working as a barista isn't exactly setting the world on fire, is it?" We went back and forth, voices rising, until I was shouting and she was coldly dismissive. Finally, I hung up, my whole body shaking. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Dad. "Evelyn," he said, his voice stern. "What's this I hear about you yelling at your mother?" I felt a flicker of hope. Surely Dad would see reason. "Dad, did you see Mom's post? Did she tell you what she said to me?" But my hope was quickly crushed. "Your mother is very upset. She's not feeling well because of your call. How could you be so ungrateful? Always causing problems." "Ungrateful?" I cut in, disbelief coloring my voice. "Dad, you lied to us. You said you couldn't afford college for both of us, but you're sending Sophia to Wellesley." There was a pause, and for a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, he was seeing my side. But then, "Your mother, she had some savings. For emergencies." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. For emergencies? And my education wasn't an emergency? I hung up, then turned off my phone. Sinking to the floor, I hugged my knees to my chest, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. Dad had always been my ally, the one who tried to make things a little more fair. But now? Now he was just another person who saw me as less than. Less talented, less worthy, less everything. Life went on, but the weight of my parents' betrayal hung heavy on my shoulders. I threw myself into work and study, barely allowing myself time to breathe, let alone think about my family drama. One night, exhausted from a double shift at the coffee shop, I collapsed onto my worn-out couch and mindlessly flipped through TV channels. That's when I stumbled upon this trashy show about family secrets and hidden parentage. Tonight on Family Secrets Exposed, the overly dramatic narrator intoned, we uncover the shocking truth behind one woman's lifelong struggle with maternal rejection. I snorted, about to change the channel, when the story caught my attention. This woman, let's call her Jane, had always felt like an outsider in her family. Her mother doted on her younger sister while treating Jane with cold indifference. Sound familiar? But then came the twist. Jane discovered she was adopted. Suddenly, everything made sense to her. Her mother's favoritism, her father's emotional distance. I sat up straight, my heart pounding. A wild, crazy thought wormed its way into my brain. What if? No, it couldn't be, could it? But the more I thought about it, the more it seemed to fit. Mom's blatant favoritism, Dad's gradual withdrawal, the constant feeling that I just didn't belong. Before I could talk myself out of it, I was Googling at-home DNA tests. My fingers shook as I placed the order, a mix of fear and anticipation coursing through me. When the kit arrived, I realized I had a problem. I needed samples from my parents, and there was no way they'd willingly participate. That's when I decided to loop in the one person I could trust, Sophia. You want me to what? Sophia exclaimed when I called her with my plan. I know it sounds crazy, I admitted. But Soph, don't you want to know the truth? There was a long pause. Okay, she finally said. I'm in. But if we get caught, I'm blaming you. It took some creative maneuvering on Sophia's part. She managed to snag a few of Mom's hairs from her hairbrush and swabbed the rim of Dad's coffee mug, but we got the samples. Then came the agonizing wait for results. When the email finally arrived, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely click on it. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the revelation that I was adopted, that I wasn't really part of this family. But the truth was far more shocking than I could have ever imagined. I was indeed my parents' biological child. But Sophia? She only shared DNA with our mother. Not our father. My mind reeled. Sophia wasn't adopted, she was my half-sister. I must have read the results a dozen times, trying to make sense of it. How was this possible? Did Mom have an affair? Did Dad know? I was still staring at my screen in shock when my phone buzzed. It was Sophia. Ev, did you get the results? What did they say? I swallowed hard. Soph, I think you should come over. There's something you need to see. An hour later, Sophia was sitting beside me on my lumpy couch, her face pale as she looked at the test results. This can't be right, she whispered. There must be some mistake. I shook my head. I don't think so, Sophia. Look at the confidence levels. It's pretty definitive. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. But that would mean that Mom had an affair, I finished for her. Yeah. We sat in stunned silence for a long while, the implications of this discovery sinking in. Everything we thought we knew about our family, about ourselves, had just been turned upside down. After the DNA test bombshell, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on anything. The weight of this secret was crushing me. I decided not to tell Dad. I mean, how do you even start that conversation? Hey Dad, guess what? Your precious Sophia isn't actually your kid. Yeah, right. But fate, it seems, had other plans. It was a regular Tuesday when my phone rang. Seeing Grandma Eleanor's name pop up, I felt a flicker of warmth. At least I still had my grandparents. Evelyn, sweetheart, Grandma's voice was tight with worry. There's something you need to know. Your mother, she came to see us yesterday. She asked us to change our will. To disinherit you in favor of Sophia. We refused, of course. But Evelyn, what's going on? As I filled her in on everything, the favoritism, the college money lies, the DNA test, Grandma listened in shocked silence. Oh, Evelyn, she finally said. I'm so sorry. We had no idea it was this bad. I wiped away tears I hadn't realized I'd been crying. Thanks, Grandma. For telling me. And for not giving up on me. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, my mind racing. This was the last straw. No more secrets, no more lies. It was time for the truth to come out. As Christmas approached, I steeled myself for what I knew I had to do. When Sophia called to awkwardly explain that Mom and Dad were just having a small family dinner this year, I knew it was now or never. I drove home unannounced, my heart pounding as I pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I could see them all gathered around the dinner table, Mom, Dad, Sophia, even Dad's best friend Tom. The perfect little family, huh? I burst through the door, the cheerful Christmas music providing a surreal backdrop to the drama about to unfold. Mom's face darkened as soon as she saw me. Evelyn, what are you doing here? Your behavior lately has been absolutely unacceptable. The way you spoke to me on the phone, the trouble you've been causing. Trouble? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Oh, that's rich coming from you. Tell me, Mom, how long have you been lying to all of us? The room fell silent. Dad looked confused, Sophia pale and scared. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his seat. What are you talking about? Dad asked. I took a deep breath. I had a DNA test done. Dad, I'm so sorry, but Sophia isn't your daughter. The room erupted. Dad jumped to his feet, his face a mask of shock and rage. Sophia burst into tears. And Mom? Mom just crumpled, sinking into her chair with a wail. Sarah, Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Is this true? Through her tears, Mom nodded. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry. It just happened. Tom and we've been in love for years. I never meant for it to go this far, but when I got pregnant with Sophia. Tom stood up, his face ashen. Michael, I can explain. Dad's fist connected with Tom's jaw before he could finish, sending him sprawling. As chaos reigned, I caught Sophia's eye across the room. She looked lost, broken. I wanted to go to her, to tell her this didn't change anything between us, but before I could move, Mom's voice cut through the noise. I've always loved Tom, she sobbed. And I couldn't help but love Sophia more. She was a product of that love. Evelyn. Evelyn was a reminder of a marriage I never wanted. The fallout from that fateful Christmas dinner was nothing short of nuclear. In the weeks that followed, our family imploded in spectacular fashion. Dad, reeling from the double betrayal of Mom and his supposed best friend, went on the warpath. He filed for divorce faster than you could say infidelity and came after both Mom and Tom for every penny he could get. I'll never forget the day he called me to his lawyer's office. Evelyn, he said, his voice gruff with emotion, I want you to have this. He slid a check across the table, and I nearly choked when I saw the amount. Dad, I can't. He held up a hand. You deserve it, kiddo. After everything, well, it's the least I can do. I used that money to pay off my student loans and even put a down payment on a small condo. For the first time in my life, I felt financially secure. Sophia, bless her heart, was a trooper through it all. She dropped out of Wellesley, saying she couldn't stomach being there knowing how it was paid for. I'm going to do this on my own terms, she told me over coffee one day. No more lies, no more handouts. I watched with pride as she got a job waiting tables and enrolled in community college. She was determined to forge her own path, and I admired her all the more for it. As for Mom, well, that's a wound that's still raw. Dad, the grandparents, and I cut ties completely. It wasn't easy, but after years of manipulation and lies, it felt necessary for our own mental health. Sophia still talks to her occasionally. She's still our mom, she said to me once, her voice small. Even if she's a pretty crappy one. I nodded, understanding, but not quite agreeing. For me, the mother I thought I knew had died the day the truth came out. Months passed, and slowly, we all began to find our footing in this new reality. Dad started dating again, tentatively. He and I grew closer than ever, bonding over our shared hurt and healing. Sophia and I? We became inseparable. All those years of Mom's favoritism driving a wedge between us melted away. We were sisters, through and through, regardless of DNA. One evening, as Sophia and I sat on the balcony of my new condo, sharing a bottle of wine, I found myself reflecting on everything we'd been through. You know, I said, swirling the wine in my glass, a part of me almost wants to thank Mom. If she hadn't been so awful, we might never have uncovered the truth. And as painful as it's been, I don't know. I feel like I know who I am now, you know? Sophia nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. It's like, the fog has lifted. So, what's next for Evelyn 2.0? I laughed. God, I don't know. Finish my degree, I guess. Maybe travel a bit. The world's wide open. And it was. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The weight of trying to earn Mom's love, of competing with Sophia, of never feeling good enough, it was all gone.